into your Instagram. You don't have to password.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome. Sorry, I just had a one moment of technical difficulty. Let's see. Welcome to the Q&A about hormones. I don't know why I'm seeing everybody else larger than me, but hopefully you guys can see each other. So I have a few things that I would like to teach, but I wanted to really just make this a little bit more about a Q&A first. So if you want to ask a question, you can either raise your hand or unmute yourself if we could see if we can make this happen smoothly. I think, Janie, if you can mute yourself. I'm still new at learning how to do this with a lot of people on. So today's a practice run. So sorry if there's any other technical difficulties. I'll figure that out as time goes on. So if you have a question, you can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand and I could try to make sure that I see the hands raised. Does anyone want to start with a question? If not, I will get into a little bit of a talk here. While we do that, I'm just going to go to sharing my screen. If I can find where sharing my screen decided to go. Welcome to Instagram Live, people that are following also. Hold on, child, come back here. I need you to help. Oh, there shares my screen. Sorry, it looks like it disappeared for a minute. I'm good. Okay, so this is some of my contact information, and I'm not going to really talk much about myself. If you want to find out about me, you can ask me or find it on my website. This is just this is in the free downloads on my website, where you can see the difference between your emotions and health. And if you look all the way at the bottom, you'll see guilt and fear are two of the highlighted ones at the bottom. And those are the ones that have been used for 2020 and 21 so far. So if you're feeling guilty or fear, it is going to lower your health and add to more stress, which, as we will get into in the next few minutes, will alter your hormones. I wanted to say destroy. It will ruin the balance of your hormones. And hormones are more like a side effect. We want to heal and balance our hormones, but the hormones get balanced when your body is healthy. So I always give the examples of thinking of your body like a car. And I'll leave this screen on for a moment. I want to think of your body like a car. If the car is running poorly, do you just go paint it, or just change the light bulbs? Do you increase or change the upholstery? No, you have to fix the engine. And sometimes the engine just needs an oil change, and sometimes it needs new spark plugs or hose or all new parts. So think of your body the same way. So you don't just take hormone things to just fix your hormones. You can take hormone things and hormone related and hormone balancing nutrients, but those are all band-aids. To fix your hormones, usually it's related to stress, and that's what I want to go into next. These are just some sayings. This is on my website also. It's also in the free download called Body Talk. And if you say these words, it actually helps your body heal. So if you haven't noticed, my tagline is simple solutions for health, because I have figured out over the last 35 years all the easiest things you can do to be healthy. And I have two other taglines, and I'm wearing them on my shirt. Limitless healing and infinite possibilities, because everything is healable, everything is fixable. Your body is made up of cells. Cells divide and replicate all the time, so you always have new cells. Most cells live about 3 months, so if you put a lot of nutrition into your body and into your cells, every 3 or 4 months you should have this whole up level of how you feel. So just because a doctor gives you a diagnosis and says you're going to have this problem or need this medicine for the rest of your life is not actually true. And you have to just remember, medical doctors are trained in medical school in sickness. They are trained mostly by the pharmaceutical industry, and they are trained in putting people on medicines and cutting things out. Most doctors themselves do not know how to heal. Maybe more the young doctors do, but they have no nutrition and no health training. So it's not really their fault that they don't know. It's the system. And hopefully at the end of all this COVID stuff, some of the systems are changed. That's part of the reset. Okay, so let's go into some specifics about hormones for a few minutes. And what I want you to see is this flow chart that I have here. If you're on Instagram, sorry that you'll have to watch this at a later time on YouTube. So this is the hormone flow chart. So the column to the left, and it goes down a little bit, is what we consider reproduction. The column to the right is survival. And I wanted to just get my pointer here. So cortisol right here on the bottom right is what you have all probably heard of as the stress hormone. Our body has to secrete cortisol in order to be alive. If we don't secrete cortisol, the rest of our body will not work. And so cortisol is absolutely essential, okay? But everywhere that you see one of these arrows is where we need cofactors or conditions. Something has to happen in order to push the arrow in a certain direction. And so this whole chart starts with cholesterol at the top. So if you have cortisol, stress, if you have stress and your body is going to secrete cortisol, go back up to the top of the chart and you see that you must secrete cholesterol in order to make cortisol. So that's a little bit of a tongue twister. I'm going to repeat it. And I apologize. I'm just getting comfortable with this pointer. And I don't know if you see that blue mark on the screen like I do. So if you're under stress, emotionally, physically, you've had a lack of sleep, you're stressed because of the news, you're stressed because of traveling, any reason why you have stress, and I will add into that the nutritional reasons for stress, toxicity, nutrient deficiency, and infection. And I use those words loosely because everybody has toxicity, nutrient deficiency, and infection. But when you have enough, it will make your body secrete cortisol. In order to secrete cortisol, which is on the bottom right hand of this flow chart, you must make cholesterol. So if we do a saliva hormone test on somebody whose cholesterol is really high, and we check their hormones, almost always you will see very elevated cortisol. So to just take a statin to lower your cholesterol is doing absolutely nothing about fixing the problem. It is just a Band-Aid. It might make your numbers look good on blood work. Will it actually prevent a heart attack or any of those other health problems? I'm not really sure. But we already know that heart attacks come from way more factors other than cholesterol. It's really tied to inflammation, which is also tied to infection. So the bottom line of all of this is infection, toxicity, and stress elevates your cortisol. And when you see these arrows go towards cortisol, what you're seeing is that let me repeat this. The left-hand column is reproduction and hormone balance, right? That's why it ends in estrogen. The right-hand column is stress and survival. If your body is under a lot of stress, you will push this flow chart to the right. You will, instead of having 50-50 on the left column and the right column, you're going to end up with very little hormones on the left and maybe 80 to 100% cortisol. Cortisol gets converted to cortisone, which is pro-inflammatory. And that's why people take anti-inflammatories when they have pain. And if people have a lot of pain, you should be questioning what their cortisol is and therefore what their cholesterol is. And all of that comes back to the health of your liver. So I just said a mouthful with this one flow chart, and this is a scientific chart. This is what actually happens in your body. So I said a mouthful, and what I want you to realize is that everything's connected and that your hormones are just the end point of some of these things. So coming back to this chart, if you are secreting a lot of cortisol, your body's pushing this all the way to the right, you're not making as much DHEA, which is over on the left. And when DHEA is low, people feel like they're aging, which is true. The immune system is weak. You just don't feel as good. When your DHEA is in balance, people feel better. Simple statement there. When you are not making as much DHEA, you are also therefore not making as much testosterone and estrogen. And this is where the problem lies. And there are cases where the column on the left gets exacerbated, and then the body pushes towards more estrogen and people have too much estrogen. And in a similar light, that means they also don't have enough testosterone and enough DHEA. So if we were supposed to have 5 units of everything on this flow chart, 5 cholesterol, 5 pregnenolone, and so on, there are conditions that will make us have nothing on the left and everything on the right, like 100 to cortisol. It's never really 100, 90 to 100 cortisol. And therefore all these hormones on the left will be at 0. And I'm just using the number to just paint a picture. It's not really any specific unit of anything. And there are conditions that will make us have 100 estrogen and 0 testosterone, 0 andro, 0 DHEA, and 0 to everything else. You will still have high cholesterol because in order to make estrogen, you have to make cholesterol. So this is a flow chart that I use all the time to explain to people how your body works. You are the only person that lives in your body. You need to understand how it works. And that's what we should be taught in elementary school. But since we're not, we're learning that as we go through our menstrual cycle or menopause or wherever you're at. This is what happens in your body. And just take a peek at this again, because the next flow chart is going to build on this one. So we have cortisol and the other hormones. And so now this chart is called the HPA-HPT axis. And you don't have to memorize any of these, but the left is the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals, and on the right is the hypothalamus, pituitary, and thyroid. And one of the number one problems in our society is thyroid, right? Like, who doesn't know someone that's on thyroid medicine? Half to 80% of the people I see are on thyroid medicine or told they may need it. And so if we look at this chart, just come back to the top center for a moment, and the title is stress. And underneath it, so stress is the umbrella. The types of stress are psychological, traumatic, like a car accident or an injury. Then there's electromagnetic, which are your phones and all the devices that you're watching this on. And then there's infection, allergy, dysbiosis, which is when your blood sugar is out of balance. We have xenobiotic. Xenotoxins are in smog and pollution and dental fillings and dental materials, and also in plastic. So if you drink water that's been sitting in a plastic bottle for a while, you now have xenotoxins. And then we even say plastic at the bottom. So all of those are stressors, and I could probably add 20 more things to the list. You could put some people's names on that list, right? Mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother, sister, whatever. Walking the dog at 5 o'clock in the morning. These are all stresses. When we have stress, we secrete a lot of cortisol. So if we go back to this, that means we're going to push this chart to the right. When we secrete a lot of cortisol, now look at the HPA axis. The hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals, very specific for making cortisol. The column within this left-hand column, the column on the left where there's one arrow is a scenario where there's just a little stress. And then underneath the hypothalamus where it says CRH and there are 3 arrows, that's because there's a lot of stress. So just looking at this without knowing anything else about the details of this chart, when you secrete a lot of cortisol, follow that arrow all the way to the right, you go over and you inhibit the thyroid from working. It blocks TSH. So a lot of cortisol blocks TSH. So if your TSH is low, guess what? You have elevated cortisol and you probably have infection, toxicity, or deficiency, and all the other things we talked about. But let's say that your body follows the flow chart through a little bit more. On the left, the hypothalamus secretes cortisol releasing hormone to the pituitary, and that secretes adrenocorticotropic, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to know the names. When you get to the adrenal stage, the adrenal secretes cortisol. You could see it right there. It's the second one. And that cortisol, follow the arrow to the right, goes over and also inhibits TSH. So when TSH is blocked, it means it's not getting into the cell, and you're going to have a lower functioning thyroid. And what you can't see, it looks like it's faded out above the word thyroid, is you also need adequate selenium in order for your thyroid to do its job correctly. And the golden rule for selenium is just to eat a few Brazil nuts a week. 2 a day is really ideal if you're taking some sources of minerals. If you're one of my clients and you take the pH minerals or the nutrition flakes, you're getting adequate selenium. But if not, you should be eating at least 2 Brazil nuts a day to give you selenium, or else you're really not going to have your thyroid working at all, because we have so many reasons that shut the thyroid down. And those 2 arrows that go to the same place, they prevent TSH from getting into the thyroid. But let's say that does happen, and the thyroid, if we go into the rectangle of the thyroid, and then the thyroid makes T4, which has to get converted to T3, which is the active form of thyroid. But if you go back over to the HPA axis, you see that cortisol blocks that conversion. So the summary of everything I said so far is that when you have stress, you secrete cortisol, which blocks your thyroid. And therefore, cortisol makes people store fat. And it also messes up all these other hormones. And so a handful of years ago, there was a couple of supplements that were super popular, or at least advertised, that were like Corta-Block, like they were blocking cortisol. You don't want to do that. You need some cortisol. You just want it in balance, like you want your hormones in balance. So the hypothalamus is a gland at the top of the head. The pituitary is also known as the third eye. It's a gland in the forehead. It's running 24 hours a day. So if you don't calm your pituitary down and get some peace and calm, you may not have deep sleep. And that would also exacerbate everything we discussed so far. And the adrenals, they're in the mid-back, and the thyroid is in the neck area. And the thyroid gets blocked when the parathyroid, which is kind of under the chin, is overloaded. And why would the parathyroid be overloaded? Because that is the number one place where pollution stores, whether it's dental fillings, injections into your gums to get any dental surgery or dental work or anything done in your mouth. Whenever they inject that stuff, it could easily seep into the parathyroid. 99.9% of people that I see with thyroid problems actually just have toxicity and all the other things we discussed earlier today. But when we get rid of the toxins, suddenly their thyroid recovers and works better. So again, just because a doctor gives you a thyroid diagnosis and they're going to want to keep you on thyroid medicine for life, you don't have to. You need to get the toxins out. And toxins are really everywhere. We live in a toxic world, and there's really no way around that. There's nowhere to move anymore on this planet that doesn't have toxicity. The kids just started going back to school. They have 2 gigantic 5G towers right at the school. So now there's massive EMF pollutants at the school. And EMF is said, the 5G is said to be living inside a microwave. So now not only are the kids on computers all day and phones, but now they're getting fried while they're at school too. And my number one, doesn't matter what your health condition is, what's going on with you or your pets or anyone in your family, you absolutely have to have EMF remediation on all of your devices, and maybe even some Vastu in your home, which is EMF remediation. If you're not familiar with that, sign up for my mailing list and you'll get an auto reply back that shows you some pictures about what happens to the body with your phone and your devices. So everything here is remediated. I've been doing EMF remediation for over 20 years. It's a real thing and it works. And if you're one of those people that says, I've done everything, I've been to every specialist and I'm just not better, if you don't have EMF remediation, that's the reason. Absolutely number one. COVID came out, everyone's like zinc, vitamin D, and whatever else, and quercetin. I was saying EMF remediation and minerals first and foremost, groundwork for being healthy. So this is just a picture. If anyone has, I can't really see if anyone has questions or if anything's in the chat as I'm sharing my screen. So I guess I'll just go through these for a few more minutes and then I'll take some questions. This top graph here is a saliva hormone result. So saliva is the gold standard of measuring your hormones. If your doctor ran your testosterone or your cortisol through blood, it doesn't mean anything. It means at that exact minute, that's what your result was, but it means nothing in regards to the rest of your life. You spit your saliva into a test tube at numerous times throughout the day, and we get a visual picture of what your cortisol is like throughout the day. And so we're coming back to cortisol, which was the highlight of the previous two slides. So if you look at this picture, the green is where we want the cortisol to be. That's ideal. You should start off a little bit higher throughout the day, slowly decline. Later in the evening, it's still always a decline. And then at night, it's the lowest. But what happens is what we see here in this picture. This person, I believe this is around a 48-year-old woman, and she's waking up in the morning between 7 and 9 a.m. off the charts, way too high in her cortisol. So think back to those two flow charts. She's shutting down her thyroid. She's probably shutting down some other parts of the other glands. Those are all glands on the previous pictures. She might be storing excess fat and wondering why she's gaining weight no matter what she does, because this takes a while to change. So she starts off at 7 a.m. through the roof, let's say, and by 11 a.m., she's had a huge decline, but she's barely in the normal range. But for her, she might feel like she has absolutely no energy because she dropped all the way straight down. And then from 11-ish, between 11, like lunchtime till like mid-afternoon, she is fairly stable. That's actually her decline from noonish to 3-ish is actually, I would say, perfect. It's just still high. It's the right sequencing. She dropped just a little bit, but she's still out of the range again. She's too high. She's elevated or stressed at 3 or 4 p.m. So if she's working out at 3 or 4 p.m., that might be one of the reasons why she's so high at that hour. We need to change that. We're really supposed to work out when our cortisol is the highest. If your cortisol is out of whack and you're working out at the wrong time or you're eating at the wrong time, simply changing those two times will be huge in terms of how you feel. And then this person is dropping through the floor at the end of the day, which you would think, great, maybe she'll have deep, restful sleep, but everything has like a rebound. What goes down must go up. So she drops too low at night and then she wakes up too high in the morning. So if you think about sleep, you go to sleep to rest and repair. She's like way too low and then she's way too high. So her sleep is probably erratic and she's breaking down in the middle of her sleep instead of being stationary and having peaceful sleep, which is actually what some of her complaints were. So when you break down, you might be breaking down muscles and bones instead of fat. We don't want that. I'm pretty sure everyone does not want to break down muscles instead of fat. So we do the saliva measurement. It takes you about a day. If you're going through menopause or at another particular time in your life, sometimes we do it over the course of a week, a handful of different readings. So we get an even bigger picture of what's going on in your body. And then the middle of the night, when we said she's crashed and then goes up in the morning, that's when our bodies should secrete melatonin. And melatonin, when you're in a deep sleep, melatonin helps you melatonin's secreted, and then you have more restful sleep and more therapeutic healing while you're sleeping. But melatonin to fall asleep is not really what I would give someone. I give it to them at night for numerous other reasons. It might enhance sleep, but if someone's trying to fall asleep, especially if it's a woman, I'm usually giving them Gallbladder ND, which is to help them fall asleep, or Tranquinol, which helps calm the mind and the body. Sometimes I give Supreme Shen. But this person's reading is actually pretty good for melatonin. So her sleep is not too bad in terms of what's happening while she's sleeping. But based on the previous slide, I had already said her sleep looks terrible. So I wouldn't have known this unless I got a reading on her. Her 7 a.m. reading is pretty good. Her 3 a.m. reading is pretty good, but 3 to 5 p.m. she's actually a little too high. So if this person's taking melatonin, I may slow it down or give it to her at a different time of day. This is not really related specifically to hormones, but this is my glyphosate test. And if you don't know what glyphosate is, it's the product called Roundup by the evil Monsanto. And a lot of people's health problems are actually because they have high glyphosate in their body. And if you still don't know what it is, you've heard the term non-GMO or not eating GMO foods. These are GMOs. And so this was my test. This is really an easy test. It's a P test. You can do it at home. You send it off to the lab and you get your results. So my level, when was this? In 2019, my level was lower or even to the European average and much lower than the average. I just wanted to share that because a lot of people don't realize that their health problems and their kids, especially, I think one of my clients just we had her son tested and his glyphosate was really high. So if your kid has allergies, you have to think outside the box. The medical system is really focused on what they're focused on. If you want to be healthy, you need to focus on health. I want to go over a couple more things, but I'm going to unshare the screen and see if there's any questions. And I am offering you this code. If you use, this is wrong, it's balance I'm pretty sure it's without the D at the checkout, and you can get 15% off if you want to order anything on our website after this. So I see a couple of, okay. If glyphosate is high, how do you lower it? HCl and HCl activator are the top two. That's a top remedy. It's just, I don't know if I would give that to a kid. So we'd have to look at more things like there's DIM, D-I-M. I have some people on that to help them balance out their hormones. There's properties similar to DIM in broccoli, and there's another new product that just came out. It's like the first one of its kind, they're saying. I think it's like sulforaphane or something. I would have to look that up and give you a specific answer. If anyone else has a specific question, please feel free to either raise your hand or put it in the chats. No questions. Everybody is shy. Or you could unmute yourself if you want, because no one else is saying anything right now. I would love to know if that was helpful of what I just went through so far.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, I'm interested in the gallbladder, was it ND you said for sleep? Because I've been taking the melatonin.
Okay, gallbladder ND. So here's a fun fact. In a medical textbook in my original training, like 25 years ago, there was actually a condition and they called it the 4 Fs. And if you had the 3 or 4 of the 4 Fs, they took your gallbladder out. That's how they taught it to us. And it was female, fair skin, 40, and then fat. So if you had 3 or 4 of those, you were destined to take your gallbladder out. And now that I'm in that zone, and many of my clients are, what I've realized is when you're female and 40, you got a lot of stuff going on. You're either a mom, or you're going through your own stuff, or you're figuring out stuff in your relationships or your career. And it's very emotional. And the gallbladder is the organ of fear. And if you understand what I call the assembly line, which is your detox system, it starts with the liver. It's liver, gallbladder, kidneys, intestines, and lymph. And the liver gets 80,000 hits a day just being alive on this planet. Pollution, smog, your phone acts as a repeater, and other people's phones signal bounces off your phone. So there's just like this chaos going on all the time. And your liver is just getting hit. And if your assembly line is not as tuned as if you just had a 3,000-mile oil change, any one of those organs can have backup, and it just backs you up. So the gallbladder just tends to be one of the areas that gets backed up, because the liver is like this giant, think of the liver as being like as big of this picture that I'm making with my arms, like the size of like a half a room. And then the liver gets 80,000 hits a day, and it has to filter and it has to detox and filter things out. And then it shoves all of that stuff through a little tube like the size of this pen. So this is the neck of the gallbladder, and it gets jammed very easily. And then the gallbladder is only like the size of my fist. So the liver does all this work, and then it's like shoving like a 5-bedroom house worth of stuff into one closet. And you're trying to close the door to the closet, like there's just no room. So it just gets jammed. And when the neck of the gallbladder gets jammed, it backs up to the liver. So you get anxiety and irritability and depression. Those are symptoms of a clogged liver. And when the gallbladder is jammed, you get bloating and fear, and you wake up usually between 4 and 5 a.m. And then even if you flush this, even if this starts to get through, the gallbladder on the other end, the actual gallbladder gets jammed, because it goes from liver, gallbladder to the kidneys, and to the intestines. And who doesn't have, pretty much everyone that walks in here tells me either they do have digestive problems or constipation, or they always did most of their life. So if you have backup in the intestines, it's going to back up to the gallbladder, which is going to back up to the liver. And so this whole assembly line is an assembly line because if one part is clogged or congested, tired, weak, or deficient or toxic, it backs everybody else up. And I have just found gallbladder ND. It has vitamin B6 in it, and it has a bunch of other really strong nutrients in it to help open the flow of the neck of the gallbladder and the gallbladder. And because of how it works and what the gallbladder does, it has helped at least 70 to 85% of my patients fall asleep. And it is my do not travel without gallbladder ND. And for every one alcoholic drink that anyone has, you take 1 teaspoon of gallbladder ND before bed. And instead of waking up hungover and not feeling good, you will have deep, restful sleep and wake up feeling magical. So that might be more information than you asked for, but there is the gallbladder.
That's perfectly good information.
Okay.
I'll come in soon and deal with, and I'll get some of that when I come see you. Thank you.
Sounds great. Yeah, it's not that I would take someone off melatonin if they think it's been helping them. I definitely wouldn't give it to children because melatonin is actually a hormone. However, I say that with a grain of salt because melatonin also helps the body recover from all the blue light. So I've never given it to my child, and he's almost 16, but we have had EMF remediation on our devices since before I was pregnant, and my whole property and home and office and car have been Vastu, which also remediates EMF. So yeah, he's staring at screens a lot, but it's just not as stressful for him. But I hear of way too many people giving melatonin to their children, and your kids get vaccines that have hormone related stuff in them. Hopefully not everyone's kids do, or hopefully your kids don't get too many, but there's so many hormone altering substances that if you're giving a 6 or 8-year-old melatonin, you are setting them up for hormone problems for potentially the rest of their life. And I just wouldn't recommend that unless you test them. We can test them with their saliva. It's pretty easy to do saliva and pee tests on children, see where they're at, find the weaknesses, the toxicities, and the deficiencies, and go from there. Monica, go ahead. You can unmute. You have a question.
I do. You know that I saw
Do you know
you.
how to unmute? It's on the bottom left-hand corner or on your picture.
Yeah, it's unmuted. Can you hear me? Okay, you can
Hold
see
on,
me.
let me just say, Monica, you're staticky or like vibrating. I can't really hear your words clearly. Hi there.
Okay, how's that? Is that better?
That's good. I think more about the talking into the microphone.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Quick
You have the
question.
floor.
Yeah, you know that a few years back I went through all of that, the fear and the stress and the problems waking up and all of that anxiety. I'm
Fear and
way healing.
and life stuff. Yep.
Yep, some life stuff. So I just got on this call. I just got back from the doctor, and I didn't want to miss it. But my question for you is, you know that I'm work in the school district, and I deal with having to deal with immunizations, which is very hard for me personally,
Right.
but I do
So
it because
stressful.
it's my job. It's very stressful. But now we received this email that the school district is having clinics at the school for the COVID vaccine. And that to me is the scariest thing I've ever heard thus far about our children. I have told my son that he should not
Clinics
receive
or
it.
I'm just going to repeat it in case not everyone heard it. So, and especially if the Instagram live people are still watching, there's the woman who's talking works at the school as a nurse and has to deal with all the children's immunizations, and is just saying that a very stressful thing is now that they're having clinics to educate the kids on how healthy and safe a experimental drug is. And okay, go on.
So I'd like your thoughts on that, because I have my thoughts, but I would love to hear what you have to say.
So what's the actual question? What are my thoughts on the clinics, my thoughts on the shot, or my thoughts on something?
The thoughts on
How do you deal with that emotionally?
Yeah, the clinics for education, and apparently going to provide vaccinations. But I haven't read today's notice, so I know the clinics are informational at this point, but I don't know, as of today, something else came out. I haven't read it yet on whether or not they'll be offering them.
Yeah, I'm happy and sad that you asked this, because I am trying to record it on Instagram and they will instantly axe me as soon as I say that V word. But I think the main question is, how do you deal with the fact of what's going on with this emergency use authorization, untested, harmful injection that they are having clinics at schools for and telling everyone how safe it is? That's probably like a bigger part of the question that some people might have. And I think, it's such a heated topic. The narrative has spent the last 5 years building up the scenario to take away people's rights and doctors' rights and children's rights in this category where they can't make their own decision. It's like forced. It's like, if you want to go to school, you got to have all 72 of these shots. And right now, last year I got hit hard as soon as I posted something that I knew how to help you prevent and treat a virus. And the FTC came after us probably 24 hours later and was like, no, 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 you do not know how to do that. This is untested, unproven, blah, blah, blah. Because if there was a treatment, then they couldn't have an emergency and they couldn't have a lockdown, and they definitely couldn't have an emergency use authorization. So the whole thing has always been about what's happening right now, inject everybody. And so the plan has always been for them to do this. And, I have handfuls of friends and clients and loved ones who are intelligent enough to realize that it's untested and on humans, and all the animals pretty much died, and that it's unneeded because this condition has 99.8% recovery rate. So, or 99.2% recovery rate. So 0.8% chance of not being well. And already in the United States, 4,000 people died from just the shot itself. So it's a heated topic, and the only thing I say is take care of your own, your spouse and your child and children, and just do the best you can, because you cannot change anyone else's mind. People are just so set in their ways. And everyone has been brainwashed and programmed that these shots are essential and they work. And even in that situation, many people whose children have injury from them, they just think that's how kids are today. They think they have allergies and they don't realize it's because they have more aluminum in them than like a 5,000 pound person should have by the time they're 15. So it's, I have convinced a handful of people, I've educated a handful of people, but my biggest thing is take care of myself and my family. And everyone I know that's a healer over the course of the past 14 months has done so much more meditation and quiet time and self-healing time than they've ever done before in their lives in order to manage the daily stuff that's going on. And I am included in that. If it wasn't for nutrition and meditation and the ocean, I'm not sure where I would be today. And the help, I'm a healer here to help all of you, but I also have numerous sessions with numerous other types of healers and therapists of sorts, because we all need each other. That's, there's so many experts in so many different types of healing modalities, and we all need all of them. We need meditation, we need massage, we need touch, we need hugs, and we need to just learn how to shut the brain and the mind down. And shutting the brain and the mind down comes right back to the first two slides that we were talking about. You might have missed it, Monica, who had the question, but we talked about the hypothalamus. As soon as they're stressed, the hypothalamus starts to freak out. And it doesn't matter if it's like someone shining a bright light in your face right when you wake up, or holding a phone, or sometimes when the alarm goes off and it's a loud ringtone or on a loud volume, it's jarring to the system. And that could throw off the adrenals and the hypothalamus instantly and lead you into everything that we've discussed so far on this call. But how do you deal with it? Either get a new job, get out. I spoke to someone at an airline the other day, and she said she left her old job because they were trying to require the injection, and she knew better, so she left that job. So if you're at a job and you say you don't want it and they require it, they could fire you. But if you say you have a religious exemption, legally they can't fire you. And if they do, you can sue them. But there's really, people that are in the know and who realize that that's not what they want in their life, to be forced medical procedures and to promote all their own personal medical procedures. There's a reason why we have HIPAA, so that we don't have to do that. We're supposed to have our personal, we're supposed to not have to divulge our personal information like that, our health programs. People don't go around telling everyone when they had a colonoscopy or a facelift, this is the same thing, but everyone's promoting what they're doing because that's what's going on right now. That's the narrative, is to try to get everyone to, go at each other. And so that, I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but switch jobs, switch careers, meditate more. One of the products that I love here is called Supreme Shen. It works on the emotional body. It really helps you get centered and grounded, and it also helps the kidneys. It's helped at least 10 women go through divorce or hard times. Another product is called Fields of Flowers. These work on the emotional body more than them being nutrients. The Medi Soak, which we have, to pH minerals, definitely the laser. I have two different lasers. I don't think the little pointy one is on my website. I don't know if you can see it. You can just run it over your body. It's light therapy, and you can do it like you're painting yourself or like washing yourself with soap. And then it just makes you breathe, and it just brings calmness to your body. And this laser, which is really my favorite tool on the planet, which is not much bigger than my hand, has violet light in it, which works on the subconscious. So you can put it on your heart, you can put it on your third eye, you can put it on the occipitals. And the same places that I just named, tapping and swiping and castor oil, you can use on all of those. All of that stuff that I just said are all parts of what I consider the groundwork. Anyone that wants to come see me, whether you're an infant, a grandma, or anywhere in between, and whether your health problems are stress and inflammation or a broken bone, everyone needs to have EMF remediation, minerals, and calming and soothing in their life, and tapping or swiping where you just literally, so, Monica, before you go to work, you can do a laser and put on like your own protective layer of energy, and declare that whatever happens when you're in there energetically, you're not going to hold on to. And when you leave, tap, breathe, swipe, and shake it off, like right when you walk out of the building, and wait until you feel super relaxed before you move into your car or your own home, and just truly feel like you left everything behind that you don't want. So there's not a day that goes by where I don't get a question about the COVID. So anyone else have any other questions or anything else specific? I'm happy to take a few more questions. I kind of plan to be here for about 30 to 45 minutes, which we were so far. I want to see for a second if I can just pull up another email that I had, or another list that I had I was going to show you some products. Well, I'll just show you a few here. The Essential Woman. All of these are on my website, and if you don't, my website's julieehealth.com. If you're not on my mailing list, then go sign up for the mailing list so that you can also get that information about the cell phones. And we have a holistic health club where you can join and get all of your products at 15% off. And we keep more in touch with our members than people that just randomly buy products. And we also have a medicine chest remedy sheet you can buy on our website that for this condition, try any of these 5 or 10 products. And so you can look through it and you can go, well, I have that, and that, and see which products are on all the lists, and then purchase a couple of products. We all need tools. It's really all about tools. Like whether it's, there are some days you're super thirsty, you can't stop drinking water, and other days you don't need as much water. And other days you need a ton of food, you can't stop being hungry, you never feel satisfied enough. And some days you don't need so much food. So every day in your body is different. You are the only person that lives in your body. You're in charge. Even if you come see me for a one-on-one, I can do things to you and for you to help you heal and send you home with a list of homework, but it's really only up to you. I can't do it for you. So my goal is always to do some of that, but then to empower people, because we all need to step up our game, our level of health and peace and calm if we want to make it through the next 10 years. So tools and information, right? Knowledge is power. So I give as much information as I can so that you can decide, I need that, or I need that. And there's the staples, just like you have toilet paper and paper towel for your home, and that you use daily, but then you have tissues you only use, sometimes you use a lot in a short period of time, and then you don't use a tissue for months. Similar for your supplements and your superfoods or your therapeutic remedies. You may not need to use melatonin for a month or 2 at a time because your sleep is amazing. And then you go, wow, I've been exposed to a lot of blue light and I'm not having such good sleep. And it's an antioxidant for my brain. I feel like I just want to protect it. I'm going to take that today. So you don't have to use everything every single day. This is called the Essential Women. It tastes like chocolate pudding, but it's essential fats, omega-3, 6, and 9 in a perfectly ratio balance for females. I use it a lot more around my cycle. And then throughout the rest of the month, I do use a little bit here and there. And the rest of the month, I use EFA oil, which also has omega-3, 6, and 9, because salt and oil are the main ingredients to a healthy nervous system. And what's going on in the world right now is frazzling to the nervous system. So, we need to keep our balance and we need to breathe. And if you're a go, 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 do person, you need to create and carve out time in your life and your schedule for just peace and calm. And some people are like, oh, they get up, they do this, they go running, they do this, they tend to their kids, and then they do this all night, and then they have a dinner party and they host. Like, if that person doesn't have any calm, then they're totally out of balance. There's that yin yang, there's the go and the chill. Like, we're usually a society of go, go, go. And if you look at the other scenario of the past year and a half, I think of it as like a bipolar. There's like these two things going on at the same time. There's all that government stuff and the stuff we just talked about. And then there's all this beautiful, quiet, peaceful, relaxing time. I got to sleep in for 14 months. That was heaven. I didn't have to rush after raising a kid for 15 years. I didn't have to race out the door every single morning to get him to school and do 8 million things at the same time. That was such a joy. I loved every second of that. That's the peace and the calm. You heal, we heal when we are in balance. And we also heal when we're at something we call still points, which is like, it's like the space. So everybody just take a deep breath for a second. Take a deep breath in. And a long, slow exhale. And after your exhale, and even make noise with your exhale, after your exhale, just go quiet for just a moment and just feel. That space right there, that's what we call still point. And we need to have more of that in our lives. And whether you sit for a minute and just breathe and try to find that, or you do breath of fire, which is so exhausting if you really do it, and then you sit quietly for a minute, you use your laser and do it. The body talk words that I threw up on the screen earlier, it's a free download on my website. If you say those words, it instantly puts you into still point. Just set an alarm, give yourself 5 or 10 minutes, set an alarm with a gentle, soothing sound on a low volume so that when you're awoken after the little healing moment, that it doesn't jar your nervous system. And say those words, sit quietly, just breathe, and just teach your body how to get into still point. It is a muscle memory. The more you do that, the more balanced and the better you're going to feel on every level. And if you're moms that are on the phone or this call right now, moms are the metronome of the family. And if you're stressed out, I can guarantee your children are going to feel that energy and they're going to act off of it. But if you're calm and balanced, it's going to be easier with your kids as well. So remember, you can't change other people. You can only change yourself and how you respond to them. And that goes same as true for this clinic thing. And, I think it's a nightmare what they're doing with children and how they're turning their schools into sites for an experimental drug. Because I'm pretty sure we've always taught our children not to inject experimental drugs into their body. So hopefully we'll teach our children, right? Everyone on the call. And yeah, just stay balanced. I'm going to try, I'd love any other feedback. I'm going to try to have a call like this, like at least once a month. I'm just feeling out the time and the date and the logistics so that I could better share my screen and use the pointer correctly. Hopefully I saved it correctly on Instagram so you can watch it there too. And check out my website or reach out to us and use the code BALANCE to purchase any products. There's numerous other products. There's Ultra Pollen, Radiant Woman. We have a Amino HGH, which none of the products that I have animal stuff or any chemicals or anything in them. So if it says testosterone, it's actually just the nutrients your body needs to make testosterone. It's not giving you testosterone. I don't give things like that. And then just one more little note on supplements. Right before COVID in 2019, at the end of the year, I was at a conference with a man who owns an independent lab where they test products so that people could find out what's in their products so that they can make a label. And he said he has 8 file cabinets filled with products that have all kinds of harmful ingredients in them. And he said that 50 to 60% of supplements have pharmaceuticals, hormones, glass, or paint in them. So I just want you to understand, just because you buy it at Whole Foods or Amazon or wherever, a lot of products have a lot of harmful stuff in it. And so first of all, nothing that I carry or sell or offer will ever have that. We do extensive testing scientifically and energetic. So none of our products have that in it. That's why you want to join the Holistic Health Club. If you take vitamins, you want to get them from a place you can feel confident and trust. And a lot of them are around $20. Most of them are not expensive. But the reason why they have those in there is because we live in a polluted society. There's pollution everywhere. Smog, pollution, groundwater. Just because it says organic doesn't mean it's perfectly clean, because the wind blows and it blows stuff. And then there's that other piece of the narrative where if you look up something called Codex, CODEX, there's a lot of bad people that decided that they wanted to put a lot of bad things in the food supply. So there's purposeful things that have happened as well, sadly. So we need to be smarter than a fifth grader and step up our game of meditation and being healthy so that we can carry on. Because there are going to be a lot of deaths over the next 9 months and maybe 3 or 4 years. And then there's going to be a lot of people that have increased their consciousness and increased their health. And it's like we're all inside this snow globe and it's like really being shaken up. And the healthy, calm, balanced people are the ones that are going to be thriving in the next couple of years. So you get to choose if that will be you and your family or not. So on that note, I will say to have a healthy day. And I hope to see you next time. And our clinic is open. The door is open. We're mask free. If you want to wear one, you can. We don't. And stop on by, check out what we have, or book an appointment. And I'll see you soon. Have a healthy day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.